Do you believe the hype behind Spider-Man is due to its exclusivity with PlayStation? Don't let nobody call you a fool. There's actually some evidence out there that might prove you correct. Check this video out. Hope you enjoy. What's up, everybody? It is the best spot, Kid Smooth. And yes, I am doing this video. Is Spider-Man hype due to its exclusivity with PlayStation? I'm sure some of you guys have seen it on Twitter. You've seen it on YouTube. People talk about it. And then there's a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of content creators on YouTube are trying to deflect that and tell you that's not the case. And they'll bring up many different reasons and cases of why it's not the case. They'll say things like, well, Spider-Man is a big seller, Spider-Man is a big character, everybody's always hyped for Spider-Man. They'll tell you Spider-Man always sells. Spider-Man's games has always been good. Only the bad Spider-Man games were the ones based upon its movie. They'll tell you, no, the hype isn't because it's on PlayStation. The hype is because the developer, Insomniac Games. Well, what if I told you that even though some may say that, it doesn't seem consistent with history and things that happened in the past, considering Insomniac Games, Spider-Man games, and PlayStation. So let's dive in to my video about the hype behind Spider-Man, and let's defunct all these fake ass excuses that all these people are coming up with on why they're so hyped with Spider-Man. And before I get directly into the video, I'm going to tell you this. No, I am not upset that anybody's hyped for Spider-Man. Go ahead, if Spider-Man is your favorite character, Spider-Man is your favorite game, sure, be happy. But no need to lie on the true motive of your excitement. Now I'll tell you this, if Spider-Man was an Xbox exclusive, hell, I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan. I said that plenty of times with games. Oh hell yeah, I'll be shouting for the rooftop. And I'm looking forward to the game. Of course, it looks great. But I'll explain to you my thoughts of where I come from on Spider-Man. But first, let's break down these fake ass excuses. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. The first thing I want to defunct is that Spider-Man games always sell. Spider-Man games always sell. We would have to literally go back. We have to go back 15 years to find you a Spider-Man game that sold very, very well. And that Spider-Man had to be Spider-Man 2 that came out in 2004. This was a multi-platform game published by no other than who? Activision. This was also the highest rated Spider-Man or major release Spider-Man game in the last 15 years, receiving an 80 Metacritic. This game sold over 6.5 million units across all platforms, including PlayStation, Xbox, GameCube, DS, and I think the PSP or something like that. It sold a lot. It was well received. And unfortunately, that was probably the last decent Spider-Man game according to review scores and according to its sales. Now, if you find yourself questioning PlayStation fanboys or fans of with this overhype on Spider-Man, and you got to say, and you ask yourself, well, where was this hype when the last Spider-Man came out? Because Spider-Man 2 wasn't the last Spider-Man that came out. There's been several Spider-Man games that came out between that game and this game. Now, I would completely understand if Spider-Man 2 was the last Spider-Man game we got up until this point, it would make sense to be this super hyped for it. But we're actually only about 3-4 years removed from the last Spider-Man game, which was The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which released as a multi-platform game in 2014. Now, some facts about this Spider-Man game. Some facts about this Spider-Man game. You had all the reason to be hyped. You know what I mean? You have all the reason to be hyped. It's been it's a Spider-Man. Spider-Man always sells. You know, it's an open world game. You know what I mean? Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out 2014. Its Metascore, in some cases on PlayStation, was below a 50, so a 49 Metascore, and probably like 50, 51 or worse everywhere else. Across all platforms that it came out, this is including current gen, well, last gen and current gen now, because it came out on PS3 and 360, PS4 and Xbox One, across all platforms, only got you 1.3 million units sold. So that kind of defunks that all Spider-Man games sell. One thing that's consistent with Spider-Man, its movies sell. Its movies sell. Its games aren't that popular and haven't been popular for a very, very long time. Now, people will say, well, that's because all movie games suck and blah, 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 blah. But I just told you Spider-Man 2 was one of the best games at that time and sold very well. So sure, recent movie games suck, but let's talk about the Spider-Man games that aren't based on its movies, such as Web of Shadows and Edge of Time. Now, Edge of Time, which would be the most recent one in 2011 that's not based on the movie, Metascore was a 58, and across all platforms did under 1 million units sold across all platforms that it was available for. Actually, it came in at under 840,000 copies. That's the last record number of that game. So, man, and the game wasn't good. It did worse than Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2 as far as Metascores go. Or let's talk about Web of Shadows, the one everybody they act like was the last great Spider-Man game. They pretend it was so great. They pretend, oh, that game did super well. Once again, Web of Shadows, 2008, across all platforms, did 1.3 million units sold, and its Metascore was 68. Wasn't that great. So, all Spider-Man games are good? No. Only Spider-Man games based after movies are bad? No. No, so Web of Shadows is 2008. That's 10 years already. So there hasn't been a decent Spider-Man game in 10 years. So all Spider-Man games don't sell because apparently all of these would be considered flops. The only thing that would be successful at this point would be Spider-Man 2 from 2004. So all the other Spider-Man games after that were considered flops, and they didn't do so well with reviews. So that rumor's debunked. Oh, not rumor, but that excuse is debunked. What about the developer? Insomniac Games. Insomniac Games is doing it, so we know it's gonna be great. We know it's gonna be amazing. Insomniac. Let me tell you, I love Insomniac Games. And I love them for one reason only. No, it wasn't Sunset Overdrive. I love Insomniac for the series Ratchet and Clank. They made one of my favorite platformers growing up. And when I heard that Microsoft was working with them and they were going to be releasing an Xbox exclusive, of course I was super hyped. So by default, I supported Sunset Overdrive. Partially because it was an exclusive, which I'll admit, and two, because it was Insomniac game and they did have a franchise that I did love. But is this the case for everyone? Is Insomniac so good of a developer where you would support by default? Because Insomniac has done other games, right? But the only other games that people tend to care about, or PlayStation fans tend to care about, are the ones that were exclusive to PlayStation, and that is the Ratchet and Clank series and the Resistance series. But the other titles that Insomniac brought out that were decent didn't sell or fare pretty well. Let's talk about Sunset Overdrive. This game came out in 2014. This is a Insomniac IP. They owned this IP and it was exclusive for the Xbox One. Now, looking at the sales, being an Insomniac game, this didn't encourage Insomniac fans or PlayStation fans to go out and buy an Xbox One. They might have petitioned a little bit, but they didn't do that. The game didn't sell well, and the Xbox didn't even win NPD that month of October 2014 when the game was released. So it didn't translate. Oh, Insomniac, or God, that whatever they do, if Insomniac make it, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna buy it. No, the hype wasn't that strong for people to go out and buy the game, or for people to go out and buy an Xbox for that game. The hype was not that strong. Sure, it was actually Insomniac's probably best rated game since their last PlayStation exclusive at that time, because when you think about Songs of the Deep, it's a 68 meta average. Nobody really cared for that game as much as people want to lie and pretend that they did. And then you got that game called Fuse, which was a shit show, averaging a 63 Metacritic, and that's like pulling the highest score. So Insomniac Games, sure, they've made great PlayStation exclusive with Ratchet and Clank and Resistance, but are they really that great that everything they drop is the reason you would either buy a game or be hyped for a game? Because they've shown you, they've proven to you that they're not flawless. They've put out less than average games. They put out less than mediocre games, and you know it. The difference with those less than mediocre games, they were either multi-platform or they were exclusive to another platform. So you can actually cross off Insomniac's involvement with this game off the hype list, because they're not guaranteed to give you a gem at all. Now, is it the publisher? That's the only thing in common, because if you think about it, people was like, well, I put up a question on Twitter the other day. I said, if Spider-Man, this Spider-Man that's coming out now, it was published by Activision, but it was still developed by Insomniac and released across PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, would you still be excited for it? A lot of people fell for this because what they didn't realize is that Activision has published all the other Spider-Mans before this one. And a lot of people were, Activision, it'll be full of loot boxes, it'll be full of loot boxes, it'll be full of this. No, there was no aggressive microtransactions to try to keep you playing Spider-Man in the Activision published Spider-Man games. They weren't. No, they weren't great, but they did just fine. Activision is a big, huge publisher. They got the budget to do things what Sony's doing with Spider-Man. So the only constant that I see between the Spider-Man hype and everything else is that it's PlayStation, the PlayStation brand. I feel like if this game was a multi-platform game or available on another exclusive to another platform, the hype would not be there. Now, I'm not saying that is wrong. It's absolutely fine. If PlayStation is going to, if Insomniacs do put out their best work is when they're collaborating with Sony, then hell, continue to do that. This game needs to be the shit, but the thing is, I want people to stop lying and pretending that they've been these longtime Spider-Man fans or these longtime Insomniac fans when it's not matching up. When you look at history, it doesn't match up. Now, Spider-Man is shaping up to be a really big game. The crazy thing is, Spider-Man, just looking at the hype level and what people are talking, is shaping up to be the best-selling Spider-Man game of all time. And expect it, because a lot of people are saying that Spider-Man will outdo God of War, which did 5 million in 2 weeks. This is likely to eclipse that. So this would easily be the best Spider-Man game of all time and the best-selling Spider-Man game of all time. Because a lot of people want you to believe that Spider-Man games generally sell high, and that is not the truth. That is not the truth. The best-selling Spider-Man game in the last 15 years was published by Activision. It did 6.5 million across all platforms. And this Spider-Man game on one platform is probably, or is expected to outdo that probably in a matter of 2 weeks or so. So I'm curious to see how this all pans out, and I'm definitely looking forward to the release of Spider-Man. But I want to know your thoughts. Your thoughts. Do I have a case? Do we have a case? I mean, the information is there. I believe that the hype that you're seeing on YouTube, on Twitter, despite what some content creators want to tell you, is all based off its exclusivity with PlayStation. And if you thought that, if you believe that, you have a case. Now, some people will tell you otherwise, but at that point, I guess it just comes down to their their opinion at that point of why they're hype, or some made up shit that they made up. But there's legit reason to believe that its exclusive deal with PlayStation could be the only sole reason why. Because the one constant is that all PlayStation exclusive games have been hyped to a certain degree. That's not wrong. There's no problem with that. But they've all, that's the consistent with all PlayStation games, going all the way back to what's it, Infinite, what the hell is that laser light one, Infamous Second Son, Bloodborne, The Order, Drive Club. Those all were hyped. Now, not all were super successful, but they all received that same level of hype. And Spider-Man, oh yeah, people are saying better than God of War. Well, we will see. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. It's Kid Smooth. I'm out of here. Peace.